Hello and welcome to Real Reviews Rewind, where we turn back the clock and talk about some past films as well as some current ones. Today we've got one of each. This is Chike Coleman. I'm Sanford Hess, and Chike has asked me to introduce the show because our first movie is one of my selections, and it's called Léon, the Professional, known more in the US as The Professional. The Professional came out in 1994. It is a Luc Besson movie and stars Jean Reno, who was a French actor. Actually, I learned that he was not originally from France, but living in France, who was actually in Luc Besson's first big movie that made it to the States called The Big Blue. Have you ever seen The Big Blue?
I have not seen The Big Blue.
I saw The Big Blue in the 80s, actually. So Jean Reno teamed up again with Luc Besson to make The Professional. The story of The Professional is about a hitman, or also called a cleaner, who is played by Jean Reno as a sort of silent and very skilled killer who does work for a mobster named Tony, played by Danny Aiello. Now, the movie starts with a very exciting scene in which Jean Reno shows us his skills as a killer and progresses soon to a situation that occurs with a girl who lives down the hall from him, whose family is wrapped up in some drug dealings. She comes back belatedly one day to find her family killed and winds up taking up with the professional as her protector. From that point on, the movie really focuses on these two characters. Her name is Matilda, and the two of them actually have to wind up moving from place to place for various reasons. And she learns from him the skills of being a cleaner, while he learns from her the fact that you do not have to be just an isolated person, and he sort of opens up his personal world a little bit. Now, as the movie goes on, the relationship between those two characters is probably the primary point, but also her desire for revenge against the people who killed her parents, led by a really great performance by Gary Oldman as the main bad guy. Events come to a head when they track down Gary Oldman in his office, wind up killing some of his people, at which point he then pushes on Tony the mobster to find out where he can find the professional and Matilda, leading to a final scene of a huge fight out in which the police and, as Gary Oldman says, everyone comes to then attack, and in the end, there's a huge fight scene leading to the resolution of the movie. So that's my overview. Now, Chike, I've seen this movie multiple times. You had never seen this movie, and so tell me, what were your reactions to The Professional?
I'm going to call this what it is. It's a methodical action set piece with three very skilled actors, two of which are beloved by me in the form of Natalie Portman and Gary Oldman. This film constantly works to surprise you and to subvert your expectations. More so than that, it does this thing where it tries to subtly inject heart in the most serious of conversations. Matilda throughout the entire film is just thirsting for revenge. Because something you don't tell our viewers is that one of the casualties of her family is her 4-year-old brother, and she badly wants revenge. And even though we have Léon being a cleaner, he's also kind of a man who learns to have a conscience because of Matilda. And those moments of her saying, of him saying, no, you may think you want revenge, but it doesn't do you any good. And there's a point when a story is told about someone that Léon loved in his past and who he was forbidden to love, that really shows you how his humanity kind of got stripped away and how he got involved in this life of being a cleaner in the first place. Those are the moments that grabbed me most. The moments where Matilda was trying to teach Léon weren't that impactful for me, but the reverse was.
Right.
So for me, the moment that really hit it all home was that ending. I was just pissed off at that ending so much because he had come so far, and not only did he succeed, but he also didn't, spoiler alert for a movie that's more than 20 years old.
25 years old,
25
actually.
years old, is that he did not win. He dies at the end. But he gets the best final revenge. Better than Die Hard, which we reviewed a few weeks ago.
Right.
He gets the best final revenge humanly possible. And that's the only thing that puts a little salvo on the burn of, well, actually literal burn and also metaphorical, on the death of Léon and the growth we see from Matilda at the very end of the film. Because
in which she's, I mean, now that her family is gone and Léon is gone, she sort of decides to go back and pick up her life again at a school that she had left.
Yeah, and she becomes basically what she wasn't throughout the entire movie, a fully formed person, because she had also been subject to abuse and...
Right. And she's, I mean, in the movie, they don't really state her age, but Natalie Portman was 11 or 12 when the movie was made. I think she was 11 when she was cast and probably 12 when it was made. So, I mean, you know, she really is. I mean, her performance...
is phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, I have a 12-year-old, and I cannot even conceive of the idea of my son mastering emotions and playing all the different, you know, her character is very manipulative on purpose.
Manipulative and multifaceted.
Yeah.
In her pain and in her joy. So that's the reason why, even though I don't love it as much as you do, I do understand why it's a classic and why people come back to it over and over again. Jean Reno is okay. I feel like he kind of phones in every performance he has, including this one.
Well, hang on. I will say this. So one thing, because I did a little reading after I watched the movie, I did a little more reading about it. And I read that there was an interview with him where he said he chose to play the character as if he was mentally slow. And sort of, you know, and so there was a little bit of a conscious decision to play this, you know, he's sort of, you know, he's dull, or, you know, he's sort of, his eyes are a little glassy, and he's not really with it, and he's certainly completely befuddled by Matilda. But I like the fact that that was a bit of an acting choice, and not making him this sort of superhero, you know, kind of extra skilled. He is, you know, I mean, he's a very good hitman, but I think that he does a good job bringing across the idea that this is not someone who's really got it all together.
Okay, so for me, this is the one thing I'll say about Jean Reno's performance, knowing that he is the epitome of what his character is supposed to be in this film. He is a pen, something that doesn't look very sharp and doesn't look very menacing, but can do a lot of damage very quickly.
Interesting.
And he does that damage both emotionally and physically in his performance. It just, because I didn't know that information, it changed the way I viewed the performance.
Ah.
Now that I do, it makes complete sense, but before that, no.
Yeah, well, I think it also helps because it helps explain how he's manipulated, not just by Matilda, but also by Tony the mobster. Exactly. Who really, you know, especially at the beginning of the movie, has him wrapped around his finger, and it's very clear this is a one-way relationship. You know, for example, even though he's doing all this work for Tony, Tony never pays him money. He just says, "Oh, I've got your money. I'm like a bank. I'm safe." You know, and sort of gives him a little bit of money at a time. Yeah. But you know, to me, I always appreciate a sort of inner logic to a movie. Yeah. And I think for me that one really kind of helped in terms of appreciating that this is somewhat realistic that he acted the way he did. I mean, obviously it's an action movie. You gotta suspend disbelief to a certain extent.
And what I'll say is this: for all the things that they do in terms of the action set pieces that are phenomenal and wonderful, it's the quiet moments where this film really, truly does excel. I believe that I wish that there were more films like this. Thinking Man, pieces where you have young children forced into really bad situations where they not only find themselves, but the other person learn. Well, essentially, the other direction I was going to go with this is this film is ultimately about how you build a family. And in the case of this film, as with our other film we'll review later,
Nice segue, yeah.
it is about you don't choose your family sometimes. Sometimes your family comes to you, and you build it from there. And that's exactly what these characters did in this film. It may be very much an action set piece, but more than anything, it's a film about how you build a family and where that family can take you and how it can make you grow.
So, I mean, to me, that speaks to why this movie, to me, is really special as an action movie, is that you're right, there's only a couple of scenes in the movie that are really action set pieces.
Right.
And then I was mentioning, I watched the extended version, which has a couple of additional scenes between the two of them, scenes that were cut from the US version because they went a little even farther in terms of her trying to engage him as a lover. And he resists.
Yeah.
He resists. I mean, that doesn't happen.
Which that is a bit of a weird thing that they put in the movie, but you can also understand it. You would fall in love with the person who is doing their best to save you, especially if you're 12 and you don't know any better.
And especially if he's protecting her, and you know, again, that part made intrinsic sense to me. And another thing that I read, actually, in an earlier version of the script, they actually became lovers. But I really appreciate that they didn't do that. I mean, not just the American audience would totally hate that.
Yeah.
But also, I just sort of like the tension.
The tension of the possibility.
Yeah, well, the possibility, and you know, as an audience member, you're kind of going, oh, wait, God, I hope he doesn't do that, you know, and you're on the edge of your seat, even during the dramatic pieces, that's where I was going with that, is large parts of this movie are really the two of them interacting.
Yeah.
With a couple of action set pieces, you know, interspersed throughout, which to me speaks very highly of the direction of this movie. I mean, this is Luc Besson choosing to control the timing of this. You know, one last thing that I read that to me also sort of struck out. At the time that they made this, he was already planning to make The Fifth Element. Okay.
Oh man.
They had to put The Fifth Element on hold due to Bruce Willis's schedule.
Yeah.
So he wrote and shot this while he was waiting for that to happen, so that this movie was actually made very quickly. They made it in a period of like 2 months. I mean, I think it took them more time to write it, but they shot the movie very quickly in a period of about 2 months. And a decent amount of some of the key lines were improvised, especially by Gary Oldman.
Interesting.
Yeah. But, you know, I just go back to the action scenes are very well done. I mean, just the final action scene really is a classic.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. It's kind of like what you would see in a Jackie Chan Hong Kong action movie.
Absolutely.
With the fake out of all fake outs.
Yes.
Continually just happening, and you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
where's he going to go? Oh, no, he's going to go down here.
Yep. And then the other thing that I really appreciated, you know, sometimes it's the subtle things that really stand out. So here in a movie that's so full of action and violence, because you already let the cat out of the bag. When Léon gets shot at the end, it's actually, you don't see him get shot.
Yeah.
It's a point of view where you're seeing him walking towards what he thinks might be his freedom.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden it kind of goes white, and he sort of you sort of slump to the floor as if you were him.
Yeah.
I just really I'm impressed by the restraint of Luc Besson not to show that from another angle. It's just a very subtle way of showing that.
Which is ironic because he uses none of that restraint in his modern film.
Well, that's right. You know, but also in the scenes before that, he used none of that restraint.
Yeah.
So it's a nice mix of different styles. There was one other one that I sort of reflected on, similar to that, which is when, you know, Gary Oldman goes to Tony the mobster and he's trying to chase down Léon, and then they just sort of end the scene. And then in the very next scene with Danny Aiello, he's all bruised and battered.
Yeah.
And I like the restraint of not showing the beating. Just sort of alluding to it and letting the audience, trusting your audience to fill in the blanks. So I appreciate those things. Because too many of these action movies today are just, you know, like the Mission Impossible movies and things like that. Oh, hello.
I will get that in a minute.
They're nonstop action, nonstop beating you over the head with everything. So it's nice to have a little bit more of a paced out movie for that.
I agree. Like I said, I do like this film, but I don't love it as much as you. But it does fit with our tone for today that we happened upon.
Okay, go for it.
I would give this 3 out of 4 stars. It's quite well done. It's probably Luc Besson's best work, other than The Fifth Element, which I like for its zaniness and craziness and the creativity involved there. Not to say that creativity wasn't involved in The Professional, but it's just a different level of madcap that I enjoy. And speaking of madcap, we have another family that we get to focus on in the film Shoplifters. Now, rather than telling you all the actors' names, because they would be unfortunately difficult to pronounce, what I will say is this. It's about a family of, I think 5 is the right number? Dad,
6?
6. Family of 6 who are shoplifters. But it's not the shoplifting that takes precedence here. It's how they communicate and work together as a family to get what they need. Because what we're looking at here is a family who lives in Tokyo's underbelly. They're doing whatever they can to survive, whatever they can to work with each other to keep themselves going. And they're living off of the oldest member of the groups. Would alimony be the right word? Death pension, something?
Yeah, death pension might be better. So I guess let's explain that for a second. So there's a husband and wife.
Yes.
And then there's a young boy and a younger girl who the movie starts with them sort of taking in this very young girl who's probably 3 or 4. The boy's probably like 10.
Exactly.
Then there's the person who the wife, the sister of the wife, who that's how she refers to her.
Yeah.
And then there's the grandmother who it's not entirely clear at times whose parent she is.
Yeah.
But the grandmother, like you said, has a house and sort of a death pension because her ex-husband died. And so she has some amount of income, or at least this place to live.
And what they do is they go around the city through the use of really elaborate hand signals and eye contact, and they steal things that they need to survive. And watching this is a masterclass in itself. Any scene where you're seeing them go through this process is great, but it's even more intriguing when it fails.
Right.
Because you're wondering, what's the protocol for this? Because we haven't seen this yet. And basically what we're dealing with is this little girl gets adopted into this group of, I'm not going to call them thieves, but underemployed people.
Okay.
And being involved in such a group kind of gives her a family, because we learn piece by piece what happened to hers and what she's trying to escape from. And surprisingly, like Natalie Portman, she's going through something very, very similar.
Right, but although her parents weren't killed, they essentially, we learn through some convenient overhearing that they don't want the little girl. The little girl wasn't wanted, and they treat her very poorly.
Yeah, they treat her very poorly and abuse her.
Yeah.
So the father takes on that new child and cuts her hair, gives her a different name to try and give her a little bit of anonymity. And for a while, things work out until one day, one grab goes horribly wrong, and you learn all these little pieces of things about specifically the quote-unquote son.
Really, everything unravels.
Everything unravels, and you learn who these people are, what they're running from. Bad things happen to the quote-unquote grandmother. Bad things happen to the quote-unquote son. It all unravels. And when it does, you don't know whether to feel bad that it's happened because the family unit's broken up, or feel okay because then the people who were displaced by this group that was formed can get back to their regular lives. You at least know one character will not be all right from this.
True. Grandma.
Well, I was thinking more of the son, but Grandma too.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to piece together, how do you feel about this family unit? Are you okay with it being broken up? Or do you want them to be together doing what they do?
And I think, this is where it ties into what you were talking about earlier, because they're a family unit, but they're not, in the classical sense, a family. And that's part of the unraveling, is we learn that actually, really, it's questionable whether even the husband and the wife are married.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. And basically it winds up as, this is a family that is together by choice.
Right.
And I think that, that becomes obviously that becomes a theme of the movie, is that sometimes family is who you're born with, and sometimes family is who you choose to be with.
Right. And there is a form of manipulation in there between the son and the quote-unquote father. The father spends all this time saying, I want you to call me dad. I want to be your dad. Pardon me. And the son resists this idea throughout the entire movie until everything unravels and he sees the importance of the family he had gained over the family that he had been biologically born into. And we learn that he himself has been missing for some time, and the people, the mother and father, basically go about trying to find out.
Well, they give him some information about how to track down his parents.
Right, and then when we find out the horribly tragic truth about his life, you're like, oh, he was better off with them in the first place.
Right. Well, and that's so, to me, we've touched upon this, but I'll say this. This movie has really, the first, I'd say like 2/3 of the movie progress, and it's a little bit, I wouldn't say a comedy, but it's sort of a dramedy.
Yeah.
In the sense that, there's this family and they interact with each other, and there's some interesting different, interplay between the characters.
Agreed.
There's this, they're teaching the children to shoplift, they adopt this new girl. There's all these little threads of plot that are kind of going along for the first 2/3 of the movie that had me saying, well, this movie's all right. I mean,
but
they're interesting characters.
Awards.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden,
the turn happens and
Yeah.
it's like, oh no!
Yeah.
What?
And
How? How do we get out of this? There is no way out.
Yeah, and then, at that point, the movie really veers off in this interesting direction. I think my favorite part of the movie, by far, were these police interrogations.
Yeah.
And I would love to know, I'm dreaming of the fact that they shot this with those actors improvising as their characters. I don't know how much of that was scripted.
I don't know either. But
yeah, but
that is a good
basically,
point.
getting another call.
Another one? Why?
So getting through the police interrogations and telling this other alternative reality that's completely different from what you've been led to believe for the first 2/3 of the movie. I love those scenes. That was great. I mean, I like the characters of the husband and wife a lot.
Yeah.
And watching them, sort of speak and try to explain themselves.
Yeah, and watching them trip over their own words.
Yeah, yeah. And then, then at that point, then the movie kind of veers into this weird final act where...
Of where do you go from here?
Yeah, yeah. And that to me was actually a little bit unsatisfying in the sense that... And it's not that I want the plot wrapped up with a nice bow. But I feel like there's a little bit of a cop-out in terms of just not telling you what happens to the characters.
Okay, so I'm going to be weird, and I'm going to turn into you for a second. I'm a bit sadistic.
Okay.
I like that the less we know, the better.
Okay.
For the simple fact of, I don't want to know what the struggle is from then on. I would rather not know and watch them be aimless. I think there's a beautiful poetry to that, because that's how they start. How they start is how they finish. The son and the quote-unquote daughter start out as aimless figures being abused by the world. And throughout the middle of it, they have a family. And now that that family's been broken up, they're aimless again. How do they rebuild? Do they take the skills they've been given? Or do they try and refresh and go back to what they know? It's a beautiful poetry. They start out aimless and they end up exactly where they started, with new choices and new options.
Okay. Well, tell me this. I mean, that's a really good take. So if memory serves, and it's been for me almost 2 weeks now since I saw it, the final shot of this movie is the little girl on the porch.
Right.
And there's this one to me, it reminded me of the movie Birdman.
Okay.
Where the final shot of the movie was Emma Stone looking out the window, and you don't really know what her face is supposed to be expressing. It's almost purposefully vague as to, at the end of Birdman, what is going on in the last couple of seconds of the movie. And I felt like this movie took that cop out a little bit too, because we see the little girl look up with a look on her face, and then the movie's over. And I feel like...
The son gets that same opportunity, though.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the beautiful symmetry is. You have these two souls that were lost in the beginning, who are lost in a completely different way by the end, even though they have this new set of skills. And technically speaking, part of a family to go back to once they're released from jail.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, provides a stronger ending, because it's not an ending at all, and that's how life is.
Well, no, that's an excellent point. I mean, there are times where it is appropriate to, like I said, to not wrap things up with a bow, and this was one of them. This is one where you would not want
But you
them
still
to...
dislike it, though. So
Well, to me, it's, it feels like a little bit of a cop-out,
but
that I don't want it wrapped up with a bow, but I want some kind of resolution, even if it's an unhappy resolution, a la The Professional. At least there's some kind of ending to the movie, and not just sort of saying, it's up to you, here are the characters, I've let them go, end of movie.
Let me give you another very, very plain example, where the cop-out is you don't know what happens next. You saw Whiplash, correct?
No.
Okay. Different movie with a cop-out. The movie Seven.
Yes.
The cop-out there is, you know what the cop has done, you know that he's going to get arrested, but you really don't know. He's more aimless than he ever was in the beginning of the film. He starts out aimless, getting guidance from the detective. And by the end, he makes a very controversial bad choice where there's a knowing result that's going to be negative, but you don't know how he's mentally reacting to it, or where he is going to go from there, other than the fact that he's probably going to be arrested. But that's about it. You know these kids are probably going to move on to different lives, but you don't know what that looks like. And my point is, you don't need to.
Okay. Fairly noted. I have one or two more comments about this movie.
Go ahead.
This movie has the worst subtitles I've ever seen.
Oh, don't even get me started with that.
The subtitles, this is a case where they explicitly translated exactly what they said, and it leads to very confusing. I so wish they had put it in, just sort of rephrased it into, English in an idiomatic way that people would understand.
Mm-hmm.
I just found the subtitles horrendous.
Okay. I'm not going to disagree with you on that, so go ahead.
Yeah, and the other reason, one other note about this movie that I would recommend for people to see it, it's a fascinating slice of life about people who you described as being sort of in the underbelly of Japan. These are not crazy rich Asians.
No.
This is a family that is, eking out a survival. She works in a factory. The
middle daughter's a waitress, remember?
Yeah, and so I really appreciated the sort of slice of life aspect of that, and watching them sitting around and eating dinner and things like that. It was completely different from what you would see in any kind of American film, and I appreciated that.
So my last question to you before we leave today: should it win Best Foreign Language Film?
Well, I haven't seen the ones against it. I would say that if it won, I wouldn't be angry, but it's probably not my favorite. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a slam dunk. How about that? There's parts of this movie I really like, but overall, I'm not sure this one's a slam dunk, and I have not seen the competitors.
I want to ask you one other question now that I just thought of it. Have you seen the movie Ida?
I did not see Ida.
That has a very finite ending, but it's finite in the same troubling way that this is indefinite.
Okay.
In the fact that the lead character, spoiler alert for a movie that's like 5 years old, dies.
That's an ending.
But one of the lead characters died, the other one goes into a monastery. But the fact that, you have these characters who spend all this time growing together separate in such a harsh way makes a beautiful symmetry to it.
Right.
So,
But that's the key. I want my movies to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
well,
And so speaking of ends, I think we need to wrap up the show. So this has been Real Reviews Rewind. I'm Sanford Hess. That's Chike Coleman.
yes, and
We will see you at the movies.
Yeah, sometime in the near future in 2019. Bye, guys.